Our second objective of the day is I can add and subtract integers. Okay, so if you notice to be an A for today, you should be able to multiply, divide, add, and subtract. This is all review from last year, and I know it's been a while since you probably have covered integers, but we cover them now, and we use them a lot in the year, so they're really important. So we're going to go adding integers. So you have your notebook page. Okay, on the top row line you wrote multiply and divide. You have your notes. You have whatever your notes were for that lesson. I want you to draw a line underneath them, and I want you to write adding integers. Okay, and then everything under there is going to be about adding. And then in a little bit you'll be writing subtracting as well. All right. So for adding integers, if we have the same sign, we add and keep the sign. Okay, so for the same sign, we add and keep the sign. That's really important to have written down. And at any point, if I'm moving too quickly, you pause it and you write down what you need to write down. Okay, different sign, we subtract. And keep the sign of the larger number. Okay, so same sign we add and keep sign. Different sign we subtract and we keep the sign of the larger number. And I'm telling you, if you can memorize these rules or at least have them written down and you just look back at it, integers should not be that difficult. Okay? All right, so adding integers, same sign. Again, we add and keep the sign. So 10 plus 12 should be really easy because that's what you have learned since whenever you started learning how to add numbers. So we add them. 10 plus 12 is 22. And we keep the sign. They're both positive, so my answer is positive. It's the exact same thing if I'm adding two negatives. We add 10 plus 12 is 22. And we keep the negative. So negative 22 is my answer. I'm going to show you on a number line. If it doesn't quite make sense on a number line, then you can ignore me. But some people really, this helps them a lot. So if I have 3 plus 4, I start at 3. And I'm adding 4. And generally when I'm adding, that means to go to the right. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Which is 7. And that's true, right? 3 plus 4 is 7. You should know that. All right, when I have negative 3 plus negative 4, same concept. I start at negative 3. And then I add a negative 4. And because I'm adding, and that normally means to go to the right, this negative tells me to do the opposite. So instead of going to the right, I'm going to the left. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, that should make sense because I'm adding the numbers. 3 plus 4 is 7, and I'm keeping the negative. Again, some people, the number line really, really helps. Some people rather just remember the rules. Okay? It's whatever you prefer. All right. So pause the video, try these two, and then check your answers. All right, so you should have tried these problems on your own, and you should be checking your answers. So we already had this. Negative 4 plus negative 3 is negative 7. Negative 5 plus negative 20 is negative 25. Okay, adding with the same sign is probably the easiest way to do integers. Different signs. We subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. So, Negative 10 plus 12 are different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. And so when I subtract them, I'm taking the bigger number minus the smaller number. Okay, so 12 minus 10 is 2. And then I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number. So in this case, 12 is larger, so my answer is just positive 2. For the second one, same thing. I'm going to subtract because they're different signs. One's positive, one's negative. So 12 minus 10, because 12 is bigger, I get 2. And then this time 12 is bigger and 12 is negative, so my answer is negative 2. Again, pretty straightforward if you follow the rules. So again, on a number line, if I'm starting at negative 3, and I'm adding 4, I'm going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is positive 1. And that makes sense because different signs I subtract. So 4 minus 3 is 1, and 4 is bigger, so my 1 should be positive. Okay. For the second one, I start at positive 3. And then just like last time, adding means to go to the right, but the negative means to do the opposite. So I'm going to go to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is negative 1. Okay, and again, subtract and keep sign of the larger number. So that's why it's negative 1. Okay, again, you try these two, pause the video, and then once you have your answers, check your work. All right, so you should have paused the video, and now you should be checking your work. So, negative 10 plus 20 is positive 10. And 45 plus negative 62 is negative 17. Okay, it's negative because this is bigger. 62 minus 45 is 17. Okay. So now we're going to do subtracting integers. And when we subtract, we add the opposite. So we're adding the opposite. The only thing to remember with this, okay, you might have heard keep, change before. We're getting away from that. We're going to call it adding the opposite, but it's the same thing, okay? The add is like the change, and the opposite is again like the change, okay? And we're keeping the first number. So it's not any different from what you know. You might have heard more add the opposite last year, which is great, but we need to think add the opposite. So for example, if I'm looking at negative 15 plus or minus 32, I'm going to add. So instead of the subtract, we're going to put add. And then 32 right now is positive, and I want to do the opposite of that, which is negative. Okay. Then from there, I literally go back to my addition rules. So same sign, I add, and I keep the sign. So this answer is negative 47. For the bottom one, same thing. I'm going to add, and then the opposite of negative 12 is positive 12. So I did just do keep, change, but I'm calling it add the opposite. Then we have different signs, so I'm going to subtract 22 minus 12, which is 10. And I'm going to keep the sign of the larger number, which is 22, so I get negative 10. On a number line, it is not any different from what you know. So if we start at negative 10 here, minus means to go to the left. So I'm going to go to the left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that gets me to negative 14, which is the same thing I would get if I were to add the opposite. Same sign, I add. 10 plus 4 is 14, and I keep the negative. This is the one that's probably the most confusing for people. So negative 12 is where we're going to start. Minus means we go to the left, but the negative tells me I do the opposite. So instead of going to the left, I'm going to go to the right. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And if I were to add the opposite, I would have different signs, so I would subtract, and I would keep the sign of the larger number. So -2 would be my answer. Okay, try these 3, pause the video. Once you think you have them, check your answers. All right, you should have paused the video. Now you should be checking your answers that you have already tried to do. So this -32 minus 10 is -42. -12 minus -15 is 27. And -3 minus -5 is +2. Okay, all of these I'm adding the opposite. All right, you have 20 minutes of practice time. So what I need you to do is I need you to turn your, I need you to go to a new page in your notebook. Okay, probably page 4, because that should have only taken up probably 1 page unless you write really big. Okay, and you're going to do the practice problems. You're going to write the number of the problem you're working on. You're going to write the problem down. Okay, and then you're going to circle your answer. In a little bit, you're going to be turning that in to Canvas, and so I need to be able to see what your answers are. If you want the credit for turning it in, you need to circle your answers. If you don't have your answer circled and you turn it in, I'm not taking it for credit because you did not follow my instructions. Okay, I will let you know when you need to take the exit ticket, and then after that, if you're at school, we're going to be cleaning. If you're at home, you're going to be leaving. Okay, if you have any questions, raise your hand or type it into the chat.